The Coach Curl podcast is brought to you by Think and Grow Business, the home of the Think and Grow Business Mastermind. If you're serious about growing your business, get serious and join a mastermind group today. Find out more at thinkandgrowbusiness.com.au.
Way to go. Keep it going. Good job, guys. All right, Paul. Finish on. Coach Curl.
Hey there, it's Tony here, and welcome to episode 100 of the Coach Curl podcast. It certainly has been a journey. It's a journey that has taken us a little longer than first envisaged, but today is all about celebrating the journey with some of the highlights that we've had through the course of our podcast history. Now, most of those highlights have come about through the listener feedback that we've received around some of our episodes. So that is where the choices are being made for today. So I'm really, really pleased, excited to be bringing our 100th episode to you today. Speaking of feedback, we always appreciate feedback. We always appreciate any sort of commentary that you may have around the Coach Curl podcast. And please, thanks again for your ongoing support, and thanks for tuning in today. Now, I guess with the podcast, we sort of meandered to like 23 episodes in the first 2 years. The podcast started in 2014. It was a bit of a hit and miss project there for a while, but we relaunched in 2016, and we certainly did it in style. We launched episode 25 with the incomparable Dr. Steve Maraboli. Now, he's famously known as the most quoted man alive, and my interview with Steve back in that episode 25 is still one of our most constantly listened to episodes. It's an enormous privilege to have worked with Steve. We brought him to Australia in 2016, 2017, and I certainly look forward to some plans and some projections coming up in the future years. But our conversation on that episode covered so much. I think the conversation, the episode itself went for just under an hour. It was one of our longer ones. And today I just want to share some of the things that we spoke about that maybe are not as well known about Steve Maraboli as some of the other stuff. So first up, I'm just going to share a bit of a glimpse around Steve and his childhood.
I think my childhood in general, was impacted. Of course, it shapes you. My siblings, I grew up with my brother, my little sister. I grew up with her just a teeny bit. I was 11 by the time she was born, so I only spent a few years living at home before I went away into the military. I have an older brother who I had the older brother experience with. For the first 12 years of your life, he beats you up, and I think that's just pretty much the big brother experience. And I think that what shaped it most for me was I was born here in the United States. My parents weren't. I'm a first-generation American, and my parents were, for lack of a better term, poor immigrants. And I think that growing up, me, my mom, my brother, in a little apartment, at times my mom's siblings that she would bring over from South America would come and stay with us. So there would be several of us in a little apartment, and learning that sense of community within your own family, that tight-knit community. There weren't different rooms you can go in to watch your own TV. So you were just talking to each other and learning lessons about life and hearing wisdom, learning what to do, learning what not to do. I think that mattered. Another thing that mattered in my upbringing was having, because my parents came from that kind of life. They came to the United States because the poverty they were living in was something I can't even fathom. And so they taught my brother and I to be self-reliant in that way. I can't remember a time that my parents bought me bicycle. I had to go work and buy my own bicycle, and those type of things, and creating and saying, you know what, I want a bicycle. What can I do at home? What can I do around the house, Mom? What can I do to help my dad? What can I do to do this, to buy a bicycle? When I bought that bicycle, Tony, I took care of that thing. You can't even imagine how I took care of that thing. I can
imagine, yeah.
Because it took so much hard work, and I was a kid. If I wanted new clothes, I mean, you name it, I really worked for it, literally from the age of 14.
Now, that was pretty cool, wasn't it? Learning a little bit about Steve's childhood and where that work ethic really came from. You know, his dad worked incredibly hard. Steve shared so many stories with me in our personal and our business conversations that we've had. He's truly an amazing man, and he's one of the most inspirational and influential people in a lot of people's lives, not just mine. But he's got this uncanny ability to be able to break down the complex into the simple, and that's one of the key areas why he resonates with so many. And in this short clip, he shares some of his insights into that concept of simplicity. It's a concept that I love. It's a concept that I talk about so often. Life's not meant to be easy, but it can be simple. And when we start to break our lives into simpler things, understand what it is that we want, we know that life can truly be a lot simpler than what potentially we've been making in the past. But here Steve's going to share some of his concepts, insights into that concept of simplicity.
Well, you have to get out of your own way to embrace simplicity. The beautiful thing about simplicity is kind of like science itself, right? So the beautiful thing about it is that it's true whether you embrace it or not.
Yeah.
And so you'll embrace simplicity when you're done struggling. You'll embrace simplicity when you're done struggling trying to control things you don't control. I mean, most people don't realize it, but if you just take a second to look at your life and how much of your stress comes from trying to control things you just don't control. You have enough trouble controlling yourself, and you're trying to control other things. Save yourself the heartache. And once you start letting go of those things, letting go. A lot of times, Tony, letting go isn't that you're actually letting go. It's letting go of the delusion that you were controlling it anyway.
I love that.
And that's really it, because when people are like, I really have to let go of this. Dude, you don't have to let go of that shit. That let go of you a long time ago. Yesterday is not touching you. You're touching yesterday. It's not touching you.
Absolutely.
And so people have this delusion of power, and it's just not there. And when you're arguing with reality in that sense, it causes stress. So yes, simplicity takes a certain level of maturity. And a certain level of tired. You know, there's a type of tired that makes you feel like you need a nap, and there's a type of tired that makes you feel like you need some peace. When you're the type of tired that you need some peace, that's what brings on the call to simplicity.
So after episode 25, we got on a bit of a roll, and we welcomed that Aussie legend, that guy that used to annoy us on the TV screens, Geoff Jowett, in episode 26. Now, Geoff is a weight loss and personal training icon here in Australia, and he's always worn his heart on his sleeve, you know, and he's had a business career of some ups and downs. He came off in episode 26 after one of those downs in his life, and he was rebuilding, the Geoff Jowett brand and the Geoff Jowett name in many ways. And it's really pleased that he's rebounded really well, because he's created the program called the Jowett Method, which focuses in on mindset around the concept of weight loss. You know, and it's so true. The space between our ears is the most powerful force that we have. Now, people can tell you what to eat and how to exercise and all of this stuff, but unless we've got the mindset that we go out there and do it, because this stuff isn't easy. It requires some discipline. It requires some resilience, of course. And it's great that he's been able to create this Jowett method. He's got some huge success stories already within that. He's been doing that now for probably the last 12 months with a really strong focus. But we spoke to him back there in December 2016 in episode 26. And one of the endearing memories and one of the conversations that I've had with Geoff on many occasions is around the catastrophe scale. So here we have Geoff going to share with you the concept of the catastrophe scale.
Yeah, sure. Look, I think it was, the catastrophe scale, but look, essentially, 10 being, you're going to die in 4 minutes, and one being the milk's off in the fridge, where is it on the scale? And it's normally a 3 or something, but, mate, see, I can be a good coach, but I can be terrible at this myself. So and I think that's a bit of anxiety, a bit of ADD, or it's an exotic blend, Curly, brain chemistry. But the thing is, we all do that. So, if 10 was literally you were going to be shot in the head in 2 minutes' time, or your family or something, where does it really sit? Well, it's normally less than 5. But we can all just get so worked up that, it's the end of the world, impending doom, but really it's not. So, again, I say this as much to the listeners as I do to myself because, again, if we can have some of these, methods, tools in our toolkit, then it helps us navigate life a bit better. And something as well that's absolutely critical is, and I talked about it the other day, getting toxic people out of your life. And people are either energy givers or takers, and unfortunately there's a lot of energy vampires out there and they'll suck it out of you. I've had a bunch of them around me at times because I've got a lot of energy, and I've got that enthusiasm. A lot of energy takers will want to be around that. And there's patterns that I now see both in my business, in my personal and professional life based on that. So it's not, the same mistakes keep happening, from time to time with me, but I understand why now. And some people, you have to be able to walk away from a conversation, at least energy neutral, not like you've just had 20 litres of blood sucked out of you.
A little bit of a change of pace with our next guest, episode 48. We took a little while to get some more people in. The Coach Girl podcast is traditionally a bit of a monologue of me sharing my thoughts and my ideas and my concepts and a little bit about listener feedback or some questions that we may get. So our guests, we aren't an interview-style podcast, although we welcome interviews and where we have people that are interesting and can really add some value to the podcast. Of course, we get requests every day from people wanting to be on the Coach Call podcast, but most of those are a self-promotional sort of a process, and we really do stay away from that because we really want people that are going to add value to our listener audience, and we really don't want, and we take that protection, I suppose, that aspect of looking after our listeners very, very dear to our hearts. So we just don't want people on our podcast that are just going to slam down their latest product. So in episode 48, we saw that local small business Brisbane icon Kevin Gammie join us, and he joined us for a chat on small business. And Kevin's well known in Brisbane and increasingly so in Australia, in and around the Small Business School, which is created off the back of the Brisbane Small Business Group that resides on Facebook. So if you are in small business in Brisbane, I would recommend highly that you join the Brisbane Small Business Facebook group. But Kevin came and joined us in episode 48, and it was one of those episodes that we received a bit of feedback in and around Kevin's style and his approach. And one of the styles that was really critical for Kev is to understand the concept of passion in business, because he sees so many small business owners that are beaten down by the demands of the business. And he's got a firm belief that, if you're going to have a business, it may as well be something that you're absolutely passionate about. And here we've just got a little clip here of Kevin talking about that passion that you must have if you want to succeed in small business?
Look, absolutely dearly passionate about. One, the first thing I'm passionate about is, if you're going to go into business for yourself, the very first thing you need to do is go into business around something you're passionate about. Don't go into business having it as a drudgery. If you're not liking what you do, don't do that as your business.
That's almost like it's common sense, isn't it? Don't do something that you don't
Yes
like.
and no, but you see, I know that I'm, when I have to be an accountant, I can be good at that stuff. I can be good at analysing and things like that. But it's something I find really draining and boring.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I shouldn't have that business.
So find their strength and find their passion.
Yeah.
Next
so
up.
once you've found your passion, make your business around that passion. Okay? Make sure you can be passionate, absolutely passionate about the idea of your business. If you're not passionate around the idea of your business, you're better off getting a job.
So another one of our favourite episodes was when Sacha Desmarais joined us on episode 54. And there was a lot to like about Sacha. His journey from retail manager into online transformation coach in many ways mirrored mine. I mean, my background is 30 years in the retail game now. Of course, Sacha is a lot younger than that. So he's taken that step. He's moved into online transformation. And one of the messages that he shared and that he's very passionate and committed to is the concept that so many people stop what it is that they want to do because of the potential or the fear of what other people's opinions are going to be. So one of the messages that he has is that people shouldn't worry about what other people think. What other people think is actually none of your business. And that's something that is incredibly true. And he's seen it stop so many people. And he's really passionate about it. So here's Sacha with some of his insights around that concept.
Well, that's a really good question, Tony. First thing is, don't listen to other people.
You don't.
Don't listen to other people. There's, I guess, a lot of the times when I'm speaking to people who actually want to make changes in their life, a lot of the things they worry about is what will other people think? What will someone else say? Or what will my mum say? What will my dad say? What will my friends say? Or, I don't want to look like I'm up myself because, because I'm making changes in my life. People will start thinking I'm like...
Isn't that a weird
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I guess the first thing I always say is not worry what other people think.
Yeah.
Okay? The second thing I always tell people, and I tell that myself a lot because I noticed when I started doing this, it made a huge change, and that was surround yourself with positive people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It can either be like-minded people or just people that have a great attitude.
Yeah.
And that can make a huge difference in your life.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously there's that great quote by Jim Rohn, you're the average of the 5 people you hang around.
Yeah. Have a look, people. Have a look at who's around you.
Yeah, I know, right? And they say, like, if you're the smartest person on your street, you should maybe move. So I think that's it's something that that I like to think about a lot myself. So I try to associate myself with a lot of positive people.
If there was one thing you'd change in the world, what would that be?
Geez, that's a really good question.
Yeah, I ask the good ones, don't I?
Yeah, I know, right? Because there's so many things, that I'd love to change, and I'm not going to get all political because that's another conversation that we could get into. But I guess I'd like to change people's look on other people.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Well, I'll elaborate on that. Is, we always worry about what other people think of us. Excuse me. And I think if we don't worry about what other people think of us, then we're going to, I think, treat other people better. So, have more empathy and be more understanding and things like that. So I think, how we look at other people, I think I'd like to change.
Hey, one of our favourite podcast visitors is a guy called Matthew Bailey. Now, Matt's once again has an amazing story to tell. He just an amazing story. He's really focused on his music. His music is quite unique. He's got a very staunch following in and around his music. His music isn't for everyone, I'm guaranteed. And, there's very little music that is made that's going to please everyone's taste. But Matt's really focused in and around making it work in the music game. But along the way, he's gone through weight loss. He's gone through fitness. He's gone through transformation. He works in a high-profile role. So there is much to like about the journey that Matt Bailey's been on. So he's working passionately, let me get my words right there, passionately towards his music dream. And there's always so much to take away from the conversations that I've had with Matt. I've got an upcoming couple of episodes where Matt and I caught up recently over the Christmas break, and we put down some recordings for the podcast. And once again, there's going to be some great insight there from, I guess, both myself and Matt. So I'm really looking forward to putting them out. But here's some insight that Matt shared prior to our recent conversations.
You've got to put massive pain on it. And, if you don't change, what's the result going to be in 5 years? Yeah. It's a cliche saying, short-term pain for long-term gain. And, this, since, I got to my lowest weight in 2013, and I went up and down since, but I've gone up and down the last year as well, but I've never gone fully back up to where I started.
Yeah.
Last year, I think I was 120 last year. Wow. And I'm sitting at 103 now, but the most I've ever gone back up to is about 108. I've never gone all the way back up and put it all back on like I have in the past. Not completely all of it, but you just got to look, and it can be hard. I spend, every weekend people are out getting drunk. I'm home writing music, sending people my music. It can be hard because it can get lonely when you're not doing what all your friends are doing. But I've got, this long-term vision for what I want in my life. So you just got to do it. You just got to do it.
So I'm pretty proud of the fact that the Coach Curl podcast has made it to the 100-episode mark. It's, there's a lot of statistics that sit in and around podcasting. And for most podcasts, they don't hit the double figures. They don't get to 10. There is a high attrition rate because podcasting is seen as a bit of a marketing process, and maybe some people go into it with the wrong terminology and with the wrong thought process more so than anything else. Maybe they think putting together a podcast, they'll become well-known, they'll become more well-known. But like everything in life, success doesn't happen overnight. It comes through consistency, it comes through adding value to people, and it just comes from sheer hard work. And often we lose sight of that. So I'm sure that there has been a lot of people that have started podcasts with stars in their eyes, thinking that they're going to pick up a followership that's of thousands and thousands of listeners every week, tuning in and feasting on their words. And when that doesn't necessarily eventuate, I guess that can be pretty disheartening for people. But once again, it's about consistency. So for us to hit 100 episodes, I'm really stoked, I'm really excited, and I'm really proud of the effort that my team and I have put into getting this up and out. We're a lot more consistent nowadays. We try and get a podcast out on average weekly. Every now and again we'll do 2 in a week just to keep things fresh, but we do try and get one out weekly, and we have become a lot more consistent. So I'm really, really proud of some of the stuff that we've done, most of the stuff that we've put together. There's some real consistency around our thought process, that concept of life's not easy, but it can be simple, one that resonates in the book that I've written, Seriously Simple Stuff to Get You Unstuck. And just being able to share my thoughts and my ideas, things like Insults Don't Influence was one of the titles of one of the podcasts. I'm very strong around courage of leaders, and that courage is in about creating the environment where the people that work for them can give them feedback. So there's a lot of things that I really enjoy the podcast for, as an ability for me to be able to share my thoughts, share my dreams, share my ideals. You've seen me go through the New York Marathon journey, and now in 2019 you'll see me go through the Chicago Marathon journey. So it's an opportunity for me to be able to get my thoughts out there into the world, and I really am eternally grateful and full of gratitude for those people that have invested their time into listening to some of that. So I really do hope that you've resonated with the Coach Call podcast, that it does increasingly add value to your life and helps you set the path for success. So a big shout out to all of the guests that have ever come on the podcast. As I said, we get daily requests to come on the Coach Call podcast, but if you would like to share your expertise and experiences, just email me at tony@coachcall.com. As I said, we don't accept everyone. If you want to plug your latest book, it may not be the podcast for you, but if you want to share value from that book and maybe one or two key insights and really dive into depth, we'd be more than interested to have a chat with you and see if we can tee that up. Thanks incredibly for joining us today on our celebration of 100 episodes. As always, internally grateful. Thanks to my team at Think and Grow Business. Thanks to the support that you've given me on my book and the 20% of every sale that goes through and helps the kids and the teams at Carter's Cause. If you've enjoyed the podcast, please do me a favour, share and review on whatever platform you listen to. It's always interesting when you go and check some of the platforms where your podcast is and you've seen reviews and you see listeners that are following it that you didn't even know existed. So thank you very much to each and every one of those. We really do appreciate it, full of gratitude. Live today stronger, braver and wiser, and don't forget the golden rule. Just don't be an arsehole. And now, for something completely different to close off this podcast, I'm going to close with Steve Maraboli. As I said, one of the most inspirational and influential people in my life. And I just want to share Steve's thoughts on Australia. I'll see you next episode.
I saw so much. First of all, it's beautiful to look at. I mean, the scenery is beautiful. The people are incredibly kind. I think that like a lot of cities in the world, you have the same, people trying to do better, trying to build their lives, trying to find that balance of enjoyment. What I really enjoyed about Australia is it seemed to be not such a stressful place. It seemed that the local community there had it figured out in a way where they found a healthy balance between work and play. One of the things I did find with my business eyes, with my business acumen, were places where where there were holes. I would call them holes in businesses where they could absolutely increase not only their bottom line but their productivity. I found it wonderful that the businesses really do their best to create a wonderful work environment. What I found lacking were some of those same businesses didn't put the same amount of ideas on the product themselves. If they could find that happy balance, finding the product where you're continuously making your product not only available, not only refining and enhancing your product, but at the same time creating an environment conducive to good health, happiness, and productivity for your staff, I think that would be tremendous. I found some holes in that, and I really enjoyed speaking to some businesses there. But all in all, I loved. I think what I loved the most about Australia were the people. Definitely the people. As far as conversationally, how broad-minded so many of them were. It was a great conversation. For me, it's the people make any place for me. Beaches are beautiful. There's beautiful beaches in a lot of places. The people make the difference for me. And for me, the Aussie people were something that I don't ever forget, and I look forward to going back.